He says it takes about a minute. Just let me know. Okay. Oops. Cool. How are you guys? Very good afternoon. Welcome to another edition of Nail School. All right, so what we're going to be focusing on is, again, just real good fundamental work with acrylic nails. If you guys, again, have any questions, Tracy's here to help me out. She'll be asking questions or actually answering questions and relaying them to me. I can't speak. I'm just getting my station set up, and as you can see, I have the trainer tips that we sell. And what I like to do is I like to work off the back end just so that plastic is removed. And then what this will allow me to do is come in and file off the excess around the sides. That way when I'm pushing the tips into the nails, I'm going to get a completely flush surface, as you can see. If you're just working on doing overlays or just practicing consistency, you could just push them into the nails. It's not a big deal. But for sculpting, what I like to do is remove as much of the free edge as I possibly can, and it gives me the opportunity to file around the tip, right, to round it off, just leaving a real small free edge that I'm going to be able to get the forms onto the nail, okay? So the first thing I want to be able to do before we start is just get into good habits of preparation. And what we're going to do is push back cuticles and then use our E-file at a gentle speed, about 3,000 to 4,000 RPMs, and this bit is a little bit too far out. I don't want it to stick out that far. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring it in a little bit closer. At 4,000 RPMs, I want to be able to use the bit to tickle the underside of my wrist. It's a very tender area. I'm using very gentle pressure to remove shine around the perimeter of the nail first. So I like to work around the perimeter and then use a real light feathering motion to tickle away the shine right from corner to corner. And you can see I'm using a light feathering motion just to tickle away everything, make sure that we have, again, a fully textured, but I need all the shine removed from the surface. Now at this point, I'm going to use swipe to clean the surface, all right? And then once I'm done doing that, this is going to dehydrate the nail. It's going to remove all the oils and contaminants and dirt from the surface of the nail and prepare the nail for protein bond application. Protein bond is what we're going to use to promote adhesion. This is going to eliminate a lot of your lifting problems, right? So this is the first factor in eliminating lifting, right? We want to be able to do this on all 10 fingernails, and then we want to be able to go back and add a second coat. This is how we're going to set up the nail for great adhesion, right? Non-acidic, acts like a double-sided sticky tape. This is what you're going to use to basically prepare the surface of the nail for any type of enhancement. It doesn't matter if it's acrylics, gels, hard gels, soft gels, gel polish, even nail polish will last longer if you use protein bond.
With the thin bendy nails, is it okay to use an E-file or should I use a hand file?
So with a thin, the question asked was, with a thin bendy nail, is it okay to use an E-file? It is. And like, I'll show you the difference. And you'll have to see. This is a hand file. This is my electric file, right? So this is the same material as this. It's all pressure and then how much pressure you're putting on the surface. If I'm removing shine from the surface with a hand file, I'm going to be extremely light as I tickle away around the surface and then use the surface of the hand file, right, just to lightly remove shine. There's no difference in using this at a very low speed. Like if I held this, it would stop, right? It wants to keep moving. But this is, again, about 3,000 RPMs. And you can see I'm not doing anything. All I'm doing is just lightly touching, barely touching the surface, right? Tickle, 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 coochie, coochie, coo, all the way through. I don't want to be aggressive. All I'm trying to do is thoroughly remove shine from the surface of the nail. I'm not digging or putting dents in the nail. All I want to do, again, with my E-file is use the same gentle pressure as though I'm using an E-file. So yes, it's just as safe.
What number size Klinsky brush do you recommend for beginners?
So what size brush do I recommend? We have, again, multiple sizes that we teach with. This one, as you can see, is our artistic sculptor. It's like a number 9. It's a much smaller brush than my signature series, which is a number 12. It doesn't matter what size brush you're working with, as long as you can understand how to get the same consistency of bead. I could pick up a big bead with this brush as well as this. To tell you the truth, I recommend my brush, my signature series 12. It's perfect for everything. I'm going to demonstrate right now with consistency how you're going to be able to achieve picking up a great size bead. I'm going to be working with Cover Pink to show you guys what consistency you need to achieve greatness with your pearl. In order to get greatness, what we have to be able to do is submerge our brush, right? And you're going to notice the amount of liquid I have in here is just enough to submerge the tip of the brush inside the liquid. If I submerge it, touch the body, if I pull down and then bounce inside the powder, I'm going to get a nice bead on one side of the brush. You'll notice if I'm using the smaller brush, if I submerge my brush, I tap one side, I'm gonna do the same exact thing. I wanna be able to pull down, bounce, bounce, bounce. So you can see that I'm actually able to get the same size bead with a smaller brush. The motion, right? And I feel that the really nice thing about this brush is that it really holds its shape. And what I mean by that, it stays tight at the tip. You can see how it gets super flat and super tight. It's not too big where it's wider than the natural nail. It's just tight enough that we're able to fit that real nice wedge at the back of the cuticle area when we're working. And the consistency we want, this is what we need. We need something that's going to self-level. If I take this finger here, I want to show you something. If I take this finger and I get my brush, and let's say I take out too much liquid. I'm bouncing multiple times. And if I drag my brush through the surface like this, do you see how dry it becomes? Look at this. If I try to release it, it's very difficult for me to get it off my brush unless I physically have to like press down hard. And then what you're left with is this real dry bead that doesn't move. Like that's a problem that a lot of beginners have when they're working with this. What's up, Trace? Okay, now I'm going to show you another problem. Let's say you work with it too wet, meaning you submerge your brush, you tap, you pull down, you bounce, bounce, bounce. Let's say you quickly set this down, right? You quickly set this down, then you start to work it. And if you're holding the finger again at the wrong angle, you can see how fast, right, this is crawling down the nail, right? It's almost perfect, but it is too quick for me. What we need, right? And I'm holding the finger down at an angle. If I was holding the finger flat like this, if I was holding the finger flat and I set my bead down like this, watch what ends up happening. All the product runs this way, right? We don't want that to happen. There's no chance that we're going to get a nice nail if the product is running onto the skin. So what we have to be able to do is we have to have the right angle of attack, meaning I need the finger, all right, just get this here. I need the finger, all right? I need the finger pointed down at an angle, right? I don't want the finger flat like this. If I have the finger flat like this and my brush is flat, I'm gonna have a real thick cuticle area. If I have the finger pointed down and I have my brush flat, when I set this down, I'm gonna use this motion. This is the key to getting your cuticle areas perfect. This motion right here, see this? I'm lightly sliding with the tip of the brush to get this tight, okay? So I'm just gonna zoom in a little bit more, and I wanna be able to show you when I submerge my brush and I lightly tap, if I come down, bounce, 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 if I count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then at 5, I set this down slowly. I have enough space, look at this, I'm lightly sliding. It's a very light sliding motion to the cuticle area. And then I can control where the product is moving by just touching the surface, but you can see that everything is moving round, right, around the perimeter of the nail while the bead moves slowly, actually to a point where if I start to use the body of the brush, I can start to contour shape, and then I can brush, wipe, brush. Look at this. Now, the thing is we want to be able to brush the product all the way through so that it creates, as you can see, a really nice contour. Like the most important thing when we're working with acrylic is trying to get something that's not too flat, that overlays over the surface of the nail and it's round in shape. So if I was to show you guys from a side, if I was going to show you from here, right? Like if I was to draw this out, all right? If this was the surface of the nail, right? What we're trying to create is something that's going to move in this direction, right? With that arch, right? So if this was the side profile of the nail, right? I'm sorry, it's a bad example, but if I was, again, this was the natural nail, I'm trying to create this shape right there, right? Trying to create that arch all the way through. So I'm trying to create that arch all the way through while the product is moving, but I'm also trying to create this, right? This type of shape. So I need it thin around the cuticles as well as the side walls, right? I need it to arch, right? Like this all the way through, but I need the product to do that on its own. I don't want too flat of a nail. We don't want, if this was the surface of the nail, I don't want this, right? We don't want this. I don't want it super thin here and then thick at the tip, right? We want it so that it moves in a natural flow from this point to this point, thin at the cuticle areas, thin around the perimeter of the nail with a nice apex, something that's going to shape on its own, right? So to get that, what we have to be able to do, all right? I need, oops, you'll see in a really close shot, if I held the finger down at this angle right here, okay, you're going to notice if I can submerge my brush and lightly tap, if I pull down, bounce, 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 and I just wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I slowly release it. Look at this. I can lightly slide. I'm barely touching the surface to get this tight. Now the product is moving down. Look at this. I can touch the surface and then everything starts to move on its own. Now watch this. From the front, right here from the front of the bead, if I use the tip of the brush and I slightly start to feather the product over the whole entire tip, right? Everything will start to shape out. Now, at this point, I could submerge my brush, I can clean it. If I use the body of the brush, look, I can contour. All I have to do is walk over the surface to contour great shape. So what this will do is it'll fill in all this space. You can see I have a nice clay-like consistency. I can brush through the surface. Everything is rounded off towards the cuticle area as well as the edges. And as you can see, I'm building that nice shape from cuticle all the way to the end of the tip.
I would like to know, shouldn't it hit on the edge of the cuticle? This was before you applied it, so you show me.
Should it hit the edge of the cuticle?
Shouldn't it hit on the edge of the cuticle?
No, you do not want it to touch the skin. So the biggest mistake that a lot of beginners make is this. I'm going to show you why. Let's assume right here, right? This is the very, very back end. Here's the problem if you submerge your brush and you don't have space. If I was to set the product down this close and then push it right on top, right? The problem is that it's touching the skin. So if it ends up touching the skin, you have no room to file the nail, right? Even though it's moving down, I'm getting the product to move down from this position to this position, I have no room, okay? You'll notice on this finger here, right? With that slight amount of space around the cuticle area, even this one right here, a very slight amount of space, what this does, it sets me up so that, look at this. If I took my hand file, look at this. If I blended this, 2, 3, 4, 5, not a lot. The amount of time, as you can see, for me to file that super tight to the cuticle area, right? It's going to be a lot easier. Yeah, you're very welcome. And again, I understand, like your customer comes in, they want their nails done. They're like, especially if you don't have a lot of experience and you're working around the cuticle, because I know in the beginning, when you're starting, trying to get it close, right? You're like, I need to get it right up to the edge of the nail. If I get it right up to the edge of the nail, they're not going to see anything. Well, you're setting yourself up for a really hard finishing job. You're going to have a hard time filing the nail into place. You want to be able to get the cuticle areas as tight as you possibly can. Remember here, if I was to break down, right, I'm just going to lay down this, get back to my chalkboard, right? So if this again, right, the finger is pointed down, this is the natural nail. Let's say you glued a tip on or you sculpted a tip, right? So their natural nail was only this long, but you glued something. This is their skin area. If the goal right here at the back end, at the cuticle area here, we're trying to achieve this. Something super flush with just a little bit of space in the back end, right? And the only way you're going to get that is if you're doing the cuticle area in one bead, right? You have to do it in one. Do not do it in 3, right? I know in school, and I remember when I was in school, my instructors taught me first bead should go here, second bead should go here, then you do 3, 4, and 5. This is an antiquated, outdated method that you shouldn't do. This is going to give you a lot of problems, especially around the cuticle area. You don't want problems around here. If you guys lay down sets of nails and you're able to get them to last for 2 to 3 weeks, chances are your customer is going to come back for a fill. If you guys are laying down sets and you're lifting within a couple days, dude, your customers aren't coming back. Question.
I bought you a whiteboard.
What was that?
I just bought you a whiteboard.
Oh, Tracy just bought me a whiteboard. Okay, cool. All right, so what I want to demonstrate and just give you guys some different angles here. I'm going to put the nail, I'm going to put the hand to the side, just right. I'm going to put the video to the side. We're going to get real tight. So you can see from a side profile, okay, how much the finger is actually angling down, right? I don't have it like this. I'm trying to keep it at a 45-degree angle, right? So just slightly, bring it out slightly. Nope. Out, yep, right there, perfect. Okay, so you can see at this angle here, right? Everything is pointed down towards the towel. Now you're going to notice, get you a really good side profile shot. There we go, okay? You're going to notice my brush. Look, my brush comes in straight. I'm not doing this. I'm not coming at this angle or setting it like this. The finger is angled down and my brush is straight, right? So if I submerge my brush, bring the powder, if I submerge my brush and I pull down, bounce, 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 1, 2, 3, 4. See how straight my brush is? I go ahead and set this down straight. You see the space that I have at the cuticle area? Look at this sliding motion. Slide, slide 2, slide 3, touch 4, touch 5, cuticle area is done. So I just want to show you something. I'm going to bring this down, okay? So position-wise, watch this. If I lightly brush my sides right here, forget about the front. Just that, let's look at the cuticle area and the sides. So if I notch it from this point and I notch it from this point, if I give you guys a bird's eye view, look at this. If I give you a bird's eye view, okay, do you see how everything is even? Look how everything rounds off to all edges, all the way down from this corner, all the way down to this point, from this corner, all the way down to this point, and I did it in one bead. So once you get to a position where you're actually able to set this down and use the technique, right, to get your cuticle areas tight, if you have good preparation and you have this type of application, you're going to have the least. I'm never going to say you're never going to have problems, because you're always going to have clients who are pickers. But if you have nothing to pick, if there's no lifting at all, dude, the customer's going to come back for you to do your fill, right? So, and I understand some of you are like, okay, Greg, what about the upper arch? How do I get it so that it, runs from this point to this point? Let me show you something. Before this dries, if I was to smash up this acrylic, right, just dead flat, I'm just literally going to push it right up to the edge. Like the level of thickness I have through the natural nails, you can see, quite significant compared to the cuticle area right here, okay? So as the product moves down, and you can see from the side profile, you see how everything is rounded off at the cuticle area, and then it's like a ramp, starts like a downward ramp. Thickness is going to build in the stress area as it goes all the way. The goal is to get it to a point where wherever you overlay, you can see naturally as it moves all the way down. And again, don't worry about getting it all the way down to the edge. As long as it's rounded off, you'll be able to file that into perfect position.
I love the brochure. It says, I have no idea why I'm watching this. Guess I'm curious on my $50 a month on my girl's nails goes. Everybody's telling him $50 is cheap.
$50 for a set of nails is really, really cheap. Who does your nails for $50? You gotta kill it. Yeah, you got a deal. That is for sure. So, we're focusing right now on the key fundamentals. The key fundamentals to everyone that's learning how to do nails. You have to be able to do the overlay. I'm going to give you another example of something that is like going to change everything. Let's say.
If I want to do acrylic nails, will it feel heavy on my nails after?
Yeah, so if you want to do so the question Tracy was asking, if you want to do acrylic nails, is it going to feel heavy? It'll feel heavy if you pile a ton of product on your fingernails, and then you have to jackhammer it into shape, right? So if you have something super thick and super bulky, it's going to feel tight. If you have a nice thin overlay over the surface of the nail, you're able to file it into great shape in the least amount of effort, you're not going to have any issues. Here's a problem that a lot of beginners make. I'll show you. So if you, let's say, are successful at picking up a bead. If you're successful at picking up a bead, And then you set it down, but you set it down too flat, right? So this is what ends up happening. You're like, oh my gosh, where is it running? And then you're like, you start to juggle this up, right? And then you start to brush it forward. So you can see immediately as I brush this forward, you see how thick it is at the cuticle area? And you have no chance of this product moving from this part to this part. So I've already started off with something that's ginormous at the back end. So if I was to come with another bead and then set this down onto the surface, like I'm already creating a gigantic cake. Like it's going to be massive. Right? So again, a lot of people don't wait. What they end up doing is brushing it through. And look at this. And everything ends up sticking to my brush. When you start attacking the product while it's too wet, it starts to dry on the brush. Okay, so a mistake that a lot of beginners make is they start with the finger too flat, they set it down, they brush it, and then they watch they've watched what their nail tech has done over the last, say, year of getting their nails done. They're like, oh man, that looks so easy. I think I could do it myself. The thing is you don't understand the proper positioning. So if you held the finger down, right? If you held the finger down, if I submerge my brush, lightly tap. So again, when I tap my brush, I'm just lightly tapping the center. I pull down, bounce, bounce, bounce inside the powder. I count 1, 2, 3, 4. My brush is flat. Now take a look at, you see how I set that down? Look at this. I'm lightly touching. I'm lightly touching. I'm lightly touching, right? I'm barely touching around the edges. So now if I just barely touch the surface, look, everything is really starting to round off. Now giving it a few seconds to set, look at this. As I brush through, nothing. Look at this. I can brush through the surface and nothing is sticking to my brush. Let's say you brush through and you're like, okay, I'm done right there. I didn't fill in enough at the very, very front because I don't want to make it too flat. Well, in this situation, what you would do, you would take a very small amount, right? Let me get a little bit more liquid. Lightly tap. So when I need less liquid, if I need a smaller bead, I'm going to tap multiple times on the back. And then again, I'm going to bounce in the surface, get myself a smaller bead. I'm just going to wait. I'm going to turn my brush backwards. And then all I'm going to do is feather it into the nail. So you'll notice that everything starts to level. Just wait a couple of seconds, lightly touch, lightly touch. If I just lightly touch the surface, then what I'll be able to do is fill in the negative space. I don't want to brush it forward. All I want to do is fill it in, right? And then allow the product to set. But you can see when I'm working, I have nothing stuck to my brush.
If I over-filed my real nails, can I do acrylic nails on top?
So yeah, again, the key, if you overfile your nails, I would, again, whatever you put on the surface is going to act like a barrier. It's going to make the surface a lot harder. You just have to remember that acrylic likes healthy nails, right? So the stronger the natural nail is, the better retention you're going to have. For those of you guys out there that have weak natural nails and you want to be able to work your natural nails into great condition, my recommendation for all of you guys out there that are learning how to do nails, I'll show you something. Like this is, we have this in multiple colors, but the fiber gel with keratin, like this stuff right here works miracles on your nails. If you guys have seen us do the videos online, I recommend checking them out. For those of you guys who have weak natural nails and you want to get back to your acrylic, you're going to have better retention if you can get your natural nails to a healthier state.
What if I'm doing nails? How do I avoid flooding the cuticles?
Okay, so if you're doing nails and you're avoiding flooding the cuticles, you have to be able to, look at this. You see how my finger's angled down like this? So my finger's angled down towards the towel. If I was to zoom out completely, I don't hold the nail flat. I hold it at an angle pointed down towards the towel. And what I want to be able to do is when I'm applying, you can see how see I'm holding my brush. If I'm holding my brush in this position right here, right, I'll be able to use this motion when I'm doing the cuticle area. I don't want to pull and I don't want to stab. I don't want to stab at it. I want to slide on the surface to get the acrylic as close to the cuticle areas as possible. So like here you'll see, let me zoom in, right? Let me get a different nail. This is the nail I'm going to do for the sculptured nail, but here's the, again, if you held the finger flat like this, right? If you held the finger flat and then you came in and you have your brush flat and you pull it through, look what the acrylic will do. It will flood the cuticle area immediately. You have no chance, again, and then what you'll end up doing is brushing. Look at this. I brush, oh no, everything is, and then you end up brushing and jamming your brush and then creating more of a mess around the cuticle area. So what we have to do in application is we have to make sure that when we are applying to the cuticle area, we have the right angle of tack. Let me just go ahead and put a little bit more liquid in here. I'm going to show you guys a trick. All right. If I hold my brush, all right, look at this. If I hold my brush up to the ferrule right here, I'm trying to do this on video. All right, if I hold this up to the ferrule, I'll be able to dispense it inside my dish without it spilling. All right, so again, I don't want to fill it up to the surface. I just want enough where the brush rests inside. Don't fill it up to the surface and make lake monomer. We don't want lake monomer. All we want is enough where the brush submerses itself all the way through. Okay, so how do you prevent it flooding into the cuticle area? This is what we're going to do. Take a look at this. Okay, I have the finger angled down. I have the finger angled down towards the towel. If I submerge my brush with enough liquid where I pull and bounce, 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 so I have a nice bead on one side, I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. My brush is straight. Boom, I release. You see the space? Look at the tip of my brush. Lightly slide. Lightly slide. 2. Lightly slide. 3. Lightly touch. 4. I just need to touch. Touch. Cuticle area is done. Look at this. I still have enough time where if I'm touching around the edges, I'm actually able to get it super tight around the cuticle area without it flooding at all. The finger, as you can see, look at this, it's pointed down towards the towel. You need the bead to move from this position to this position, right? Without it moving this way or backwards. Look, I'm in a position where if I use the body of the brush, I could just brush through, like I'm brushing through the sides. Don't worry about whether it's dry or not. I just want to show you guys the cuticle area. At this position, as it's starting to dry, what I'm able to do is seal it around the edges so that I don't have any gigantic ledges or product that runs onto the skin.
When I get acrylics done, it burns as it starts drying. Why is that? Is that normal?
Yeah, so all acrylics, so the question was, you know, when I get acrylics, it starts to burn. Is that normal? So all acrylics are not created equal. I don't know what your salon uses in their shop. If the product sets way too fast, it could cause a thermal reaction on your nails. What I recommend, again, is applying, you don't want to apply a massive amount on the surface. Another thing that could cause, if your natural nails are thin, right, then you can feel the thermal reaction. But if your fingers are burning, it could mean the acrylic that's being used on your nails is just setting way too fast, and you can feel the thermal reaction as it's setting.
So you fill the jar of monomer only to cover half of the tip of the brush?
No, I feel like you can see, like my brush, when I rest my brush inside, that's it. It like literally, as you can see, it only goes up to right here, just to the edge. Like I fill it up to the point where it covers the whole entire brush so that when I set it down, It's only resting in the hair. Not from halfway, the whole amount. That's it. Don't fill it up to this. Like if I put my brush all the way down, the dish is that deep. I'm never gonna fill liquid up to this point right here. I only wanna fill it up to this point right there, okay? So now let me show you something when we're building shape.
Someone has a question
Yep.
about the burn thing, but they're like, can acrylics burn your nails off?
No. Acrylics can,
Sanded your nails.
no. So acrylics cannot burn your nails off. And what causes damage to your natural nail is not acrylics. What causes damage to your natural nails is overfiling with this, overfiling with this. What also causes damage is a nail tech. And I'll show you like the biggest problem with a lot of professionals out there when they come back from maintenance, right? They don't have the patience to remove it. So what they end up doing is they rip it off the nail. So if you're ripping the acrylics off the nails, right, that's going to damage your natural nails. Another thing that I am, again, really reluctant in using all the time, soaking your nails in acetone for a really long time, like I'm talking putting a bowl of acetone with thick acrylics on and letting it sit for like 30, 40 minutes. Like that's not great as well. You don't want to soak for an extended period of time. That's why you have to learn how to use your electric file properly so that you could reduce bulk from the surface of the nail. And if you do have to soak something off, it's a very thin amount. All right. Was there any other questions?
No, I think that you answered all about.
Great. Okay, I'm gonna while you guys are thinking of questions, I'm gonna.
How long are you supposed to wear it?
So that's a great question. How long are you supposed to wear acrylic? You can wear acrylic if you have a great nail technician or you have the skills to fill. Dude, you never have to take them off. You could wear them, honestly, you could wear them forever. Yeah, because you're constantly replacing the product on your nails on a regular basis. The whole myth of removing them and soaking them off every 3 to 4 weeks, dude, you could grow your natural nails out to here. If you overlaid them with a thin amount of acrylic and you maintain that overlay by filling them, filing them, finishing them, dude, you could wear acrylics as long as you want. Acrylics are basically, it's like a hard plastic that you're able to mold into perfect shape. And all it is a really nice protective barrier over your natural nail.
So if you file the product down first and then soak off?
Yeah, so that's the thing. If you're going to be soaking anything off, you have to make sure that you remove any excess from the surface. You have to be able to file a majority of it down. And then if there's a thin shell on the surface of the nail, that is what you're going to soak off.
I have thin nails. What would you recommend?
If you have thin nails, my recommendation is fiber gel. We have, again, like this product right here. This is an incredible, really flexible gel that bonds extremely well to all conditions, especially thin natural nails. It's fortified with keratin. You only have to apply a couple coats on your natural nails, and this stuff is going to make your nails, it'll help you get them back into great shape.
Back to removal, is it okay to file completely off?
It is okay to file completely off, but you have to remember when the product is really thin on the surface of the natural nail acrylic, sometimes somebody who doesn't have really good, I would say, electric file or hand filing skills, what you'll end up doing is filing through that thin shell and possibly damaging the natural nail. If you can get it really thin, that real thin shell that you have, it'll only take like 10 minutes to soak off. If you have the right acrylics on your nail, and it's a real thin amount, it doesn't take more than 10 or 15 minutes to fully get them off your nails, especially if it's only a thin shell.
That's crazy. I just try to go in a certain order that makes sense, but I was going to ask you a question.
Sure.
Which is, can you give me suggestions on how to stop biting?
So any suggestions on how to stop biting? how to keep your hands out of your grill. You have to wear something, right? And again, if you're wearing enhancements on the surface of your nails, it's going to help tremendously. I struggled with that nervous disorder when I was younger. I bit all my nails off on a regular basis. It wasn't until, when I got into the business at 20 years old, even when I got into the business at 20, I bit my nails. I stopped biting my nails when I actually started doing nails because I was embarrassed of clients looking at my fingers while I was working on them. Wear stuff on your nails. You don't have to wear super long nails. Wear something short. Treat them as trophies. So whatever you put on your fingers, they're your trophies. You want to be able to maintain these trophies on your nails. They're your works of art. You want to protect your works of art. And I feel that if you can get your natural nails protected with, say, acrylics or gels, it'll help you basically reduce the urge of getting them inside your mouth and biting them off.
What if your skin comes off from acrylic? Probably an allergic reaction.
Yeah, so if your skin is coming off from acrylic, it's probably because you have an allergic reaction. Again, not all acrylics are created equal. We have one of the safest acrylics on the whole entire market. We rarely have anyone who has reactions with the product. Unfortunately, there's salons out there that don't use what I call, there's two types of monomers that are in the market. You have ethyl methacrylate, the main ingredient, which is ethyl methacrylate, EMA. And then you have monomers out there that are MMA, which are dental acrylics. And the problem with the dental acrylics is that they can lead to higher reaction rates, as well as bonding way too hard to the surface of the natural nail. They're very hard to file, and they're very hard to remove, which can lead to problems. But if your skin is reacting, you have to see a doctor. You have to talk to the doctor and find out what you're allergic to.
What do you do if you do get acrylic on the skin?
If you do get acrylic on the skin, you want to be able to remove it, right? So if it gets onto the skin, I would use an orange wood stick because, again, I would never just do this, but if acrylic, again, was on my skin, it's not going to stick. What you'll be able to do is use maybe some type of orange wood stick or something that you're going to be able to push it off so that you can remove it. Or before it dries, make sure that you cleanse it. I would use swipe to cleanse it off the surface of the nail. That way you can get most of that residue off the surface of the nail.
Can you mix products?
Can you mix products? No. You have to be able to use liquids with the right powders. Like, we manufacture an extreme low odor. This is probably one of the greatest acrylics. For those of you guys that are sensitive to smell, we do an ELO. This works like a traditional acrylic, but basically you're able to contain the smell through whatever environment you're working on. You cannot mix. I cannot use this liquid with this powder. It doesn't work. I know there's people out there that do. If you don't want problems, if you don't want bad reactions, meaning the product is heating up, the product is drying too fast, it might seem like it works because as soon as you go from liquid to powder, you're like, wow, it works. But just because it picks up doesn't mean that it's the right chemical reaction. You have to make sure that you're working with liquid and powders that are designed to be worked with each other. So don't mix.
How do you change an acrylic color without taking it completely off?
So how do you change out color without completely taking it off? You have to apply the color to the surface of the nail, and then basically what you would do is you would file off the surface color, then you would reapply the color. If it's embedded inside the nail, you're going to have a really hard time. You have to have really good electric filing skills. You have to be able to nip it off, right? Nip it off meaning you have to clip off the free edge. You have to be able to take your electric file. You have to be able to zip down the product. So perfect example before I actually get into building the free edge. If this was the nail and I wanted to create an extension, if I came in, I'm like, okay, I need to remove this. Boom, I clipped off the tip, right? Tip is gone. right? And then I need to remove excess from the surface of this tip. What I would do is I would go directly, right? I would go directly to my safety bit, right? So the nice thing about the safety bit, it's coarse and it's bald, which is not gonna cut my cuticles. I would run my electric file about 13,000 RPMs, 14,000 RPMs. I wanna be able to show you guys the position. Don't do this. This is not filing. This does this, right? What we want to be able to do is reduce majority of the product. So if you're working in one direction, meaning I'm coming diagonal, look at this, coming diagonal, and I'm moving, and I'm moving, and I'm moving, and I'm moving, and I'm moving. Move, 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 okay? Look at this. I can go around the cuticle, around the cuticle, around the cuticle. Already, as you can see, look at this, a majority of that product has been taken down. It is bald like me. Okay, so like you have to remember that when I'm removing product, right? Look at this. If I'm moving in one direction this way, and I'm not holding it, I'm not doing this. Like you would never do that because it would get hot. But if I'm constantly moving, constantly moving, constantly moving, and I'm able to get this down to a really thin shell, dude, look at that, perfect. Now, like in this situation right here, watch this, okay? I'm not gonna just apply acrylic over the surface. I would get my arbor band, maybe about, again, 4,000 or 5,000 RPMs, tickle, 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 texture the surface. I still have a real thin amount of acrylic on the surface. I don't have a lot, okay? But I'm not all the way down. Say I'm doing change out. There's no need to go all the way down, right, to the natural nail. Just gonna make sure, again, I use my file around the corners if there's an excess amount of acrylic, okay? I'm going to use swipe to clean that off. I'm gonna use protein bond over the surface, right, to create great adhesion. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna rebuild. So if I'm rebuilding color, right, what I'll be able to do, sorry, this popped off. Let's push this back on. Let's just go ahead and get something that has a little bit of color inside. But you'll notice, again, right, if I was working with something that had color, what I will do is, at this point, I would take my form. Right? I don't have, again, I didn't completely remove everything. I would put the form on, and depending on what shape I wanted to create, if I submerge my brush, come down, grab myself a nice bead, right? I could even take the body of my brush, I could set this down to remove excess. I'm gonna be really, again, I'm just gonna really press down firm to make sure that it doesn't run. I can go back and clean my brush. Like nothing is moving. And then what I'd be able to do, as you can see, is I would be able to work the product onto the surface. Let's say the individual wants a long square nail. Well, I could take my time and I could work this all the way to the end of the form, right, to change out color, square it up, right? Look at this. I'm actually creating a little bit of length. And that's what I want to be able to show you guys. You can see that, right? I went from something short to creating a little bit of length, okay? And then if I'm doing a fade, I'll get a little bit more glitter. I'll set this right in between the free edge that I built to cover the natural nail, and then take the tip of my brush, kind of feather it into the body, right, to make a fade. Boom. Right? And then like all we're doing again is using real small amounts. You can see with the tip of my brush, look at the side profile. You see this? Like the side profile, I have a really thin structure over the surface of the nail. Now, this is not done yet. What we're gonna want to do to finish this off is we're going to want to use a clear powder to overlay this. So let me just get something clear. What was that?
Everybody needs to, you guys can follow.
Yeah, make sure you guys, like, if you guys want some really amazing education on a regular basis, make sure to subscribe and follow. Like, you can see at this position, look at this, like, this is not really going to move, but if I had to come in here and adjust, I still have a little bit of play time to get in there. What we want to be able to do, and for those of you guys, again, that are hardcore into nail education, make sure to subscribe and follow. So here, I'm going to take my speed clear. I'm going to bounce, bounce, bounce. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to release. Watch this. Same motion. Slide, slide, slide. Look at that. I don't care about the run. Look at this. I could barely touch the surface. I've got it so that it's running over the whole entire surface, bubble free, right? And then as everything starts to level, then I could use the body of my brush. I don't even have to brush it through to contour everything, to overlay everything so that we're actually able to change out color.
I have a couple of big questions.
Yes.
So first is, let's see, what are the best bits to have?
What are the best bits to have? And
then if a lefty, would they just use a regular bit in reverse?
okay, so great question. What bits to have? Like, I have a handful of bits right here, and want to be able to show you guys. This bit right here is what you're going to be using to remove shine from the surface of the nail. This is also great for texturing acrylic so that you have basically something really well to bond to. What I file, we have a fine and a coarse safety bit, right? So this is great for gel. Both of them could be used for gel. Both of them could be used for acrylic. The only version we have in left-handed is a fine bit.
Also have, because she's asking, she has a safety bit, she was wondering if there's any other bits. We have a left-handed X cut too.
We have a left-handed X cut as well, yeah. So for cuticle work, these, what I do, the diamond bits, right? So like these bits are fantastic for getting around the cuticle areas for prep. These are great for getting in those tight corners. The ball bit's great for cleaning up around the cuticle areas. And you have a square, real small diamond bit. The large diamond bit as well is fantastic for prep work. A lot of times when I'm doing gel polish, after I'm done removing a majority of the gel polish, I will take my diamond bit and I'll use this to prep the surface of the natural nail as I'm working. So this one is fantastic for that. We have a tornado bit, and this is fantastic for, it's a coarse bit, round around the edges, works both great left and right-handed. This is fantastic for taking down bulk as well as removing gel polish from the surface of the nail. But I mean, most of the bits I work with, honestly, the bits I work with the most are these ones right here. I work with a medium diamond bit, I work with a coarse safety bit, and I work with the arbor bands. These are my go-to bits that I work with all the time. Oh yeah.
Can you use the YN low odor monomer with regular powder?
No, you cannot use the extreme low odor with regular powder. You have to work, again, if you are working extreme low odor, you have to work with ELO powder. Like there's no exceptions. What will end up happening, some of the powders end up drying too fast. Some of them don't dry at all. Like the chemistry is not compatible with each other. If you guys are working with traditional, you have to work with traditional powder. If you're working ELO, you have to work with ELO powder.
Okay, can lefties use any bit? Here's the thing, Vivian. It depends. So usually a right-handed bit is turned so right-handed people can use it. Now some lefties have taught themselves how to use it.
Yeah.
So it just depends. If you're just learning, it's typically easier just to buy a left-handed bit.
Yeah, you're gonna have a lot of great results with the left-hand bit. I wanna be able to show you guys, as this sets, like you can see that it's, again, there's a little bit of, like if I was to take, this hasn't set yet, but if I'm running this underneath the form to release it, then I'll be able to remove it. You can see the level of flexibility that I actually have in the free edge as this starts to dry. One of the things I've always done is just taking the back of the brush. If I'm working a perfect C curve, I could actually take the back of the brush and just get it underneath, get it right up to the edge and just wrap it around to make sure that it's super tight. If you're working with someone who has wider nails, you could always take the magic wand and you can press basically the sides of the nails so that it makes it real tight around those edges. But this will be completely set within, I would say, the next minute or so. I just removed the form a little bit early so that I'm actually able to come in and actually get the free edge out to a perfect point. But as you can see, all this needs to be done is filed and put into shape, and we're ready to rock and roll.
Can you tell me what that beautiful purple is on the nail?
So this beautiful purple is actually a slick pour color. This one is Raspberry Blitz. You could work with the color on its own. You can mix this. There's so much glitter inside this that you could actually get away with mixing it with Speed Clear and creating more beautiful color as well. All right, so let's just go over one more thing. I want to be able to show you guys the speed technique. Okay, so like when we're doing like real fast nails, one of the things I want to be able to show you why forms are so important. If you pre-pinch the front of the tip just like this, and you come in and let's go ahead and get this. Notice where I hold the form, I hold it at the bottom, and then what I'm going to able to do is I'm coming at an angle, and then I'm going to use my fingers to tilt this so that it's nice and even. For those of you guys that are working shorter nails, what you can do is you can pinch this. Right? Just again, what it'll do is it'll prevent you from going any part past that point. So watch this. If I am working a speed technique, it's the same as doing an overlay. Okay? And what we want to be able to do, we want to be able to submerge our brush. I want to be able to get enough powder, again, on one side by bouncing inside. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I set this down. The reason why I waited a little bit longer is because I have plenty of time, again, to work the product over around the cuticle area. And now watch this. As everything starts to move down, what I'm going to do is start to contour the shape, and then I can actually, right, as it's starting to set, what I'm going to be able to do is brush this onto the form, right? So we're doing, again, a really nice active length set. So once I brush this onto the form, then what I can do is I could use the body of the brush and manipulate shape. So if I'm going with, say, excuse the glitter, but let's say I'm going with something, a very short coffin, I'll be able to do that. If I'm going a little bit more oval, then what I want to be able to do is stretch this out far enough. Don't worry, again, how thin you get the tip. I want to be able to show you something. So let's say we get this to a point, and I'm using the tip of my brush, and I pull this into a very shallow free edge where you can see a majority of the bulk, right? A majority of the bulk is in the back end. What I can do is I can submerge my brush. I can get, again, a very shallow amount. I can just wait, and then what I'm going to do is...
You don't have to do the free edge first?
No, if you're doing, again, this is an advanced technique, but as you can see, if you get really good at doing overlays, I can build this out, especially if I'm doing active length nails. Look at this. And I'm actually able to do this in just 2 beads, right? Sometimes I'm actually able to do it in 1. But like, that's the whole thing. The important right, part of teaching you guys how to do your overlays, starting from your cuticle areas and moving from this position to this position, is if you're focused on getting it tight around this point as the product moves this way, if you have your form, it'll basically run onto the form, and then you could use the body of the brush to shape it. And then you could add the thickness that you want to the tip to create the shape that you need, okay? All right, real fast, let's go through filing. I want to be able to show you what we're going to do. Also, when I am done, this is really important. Like you see, I'm resting my brush inside my dish. It's important that we, again, rinse and clean out any glitters or acrylics, right, that have built up inside the brush. This is the important step. And then whatever is left over, my recommendation, whatever is left over, you could use your towel to kind of clean this up, to remove any of that contaminated monomer, right, or the glitter. And if there's any glitter inside here, what you can do is you can take a wipe just like this, take your magic wand, get a little bit of swipe on the end, and you can see, look at this. I can come in here and I can really get in and try to remove as much of the glitter and all the excess as I can from inside the dish. You might need a couple of wipes to get in and clean this up so that you get it all out completely, right? Okay, perfect, right? Set it up for the next application. Okay, now, filing. I want to be able to file this in the least amount of effort. So what I want to be able to do, again, I'm going to keep my hand file as straight as I can on the sides. I'm going to file my nail. You can taper it, right? I can come in, I can get my lower arches as straight as I possibly can. All right, starting at the lowest point, filing up until I reach, right, the end of the growth channel. And then once we have the sides shape, this is where you're going to use your safety bit, right, to take down a majority of the bulk. So if I'm looking at the side profile, I'm like, okay, I need a little bit here. I need a lot more at the front, all right? And then I'm filing through the upper arch. Boom. Oops, sorry. Right? And then I want to look down the barrel of the nail. So if I'm looking down the barrel of the nail, I want to be able to file in one direction. I'm not really concerned. I'm going to take down a little bit more length. I want to be able to get this as even as I can from side to side. If I'm going around the cuticle area, I'm going one direction, one direction, one direction, all the way through. And as you can see, dude, I'm not filing for an extended period of time. I'm working around the perimeter to remove bulk from literally this area, and the front of the nail. This is going to set me up so that when I hand file, I don't need to spend a lot of time around the cuticle area. Cuticle area is done. I don't have to spend a lot of time through the body, the left side of the nail. I don't have to spend a lot of time through the right side of the nail, all right? And once I actually have this filed into general shape, then what we want to be able to do again is look here. I want to be able to look down the barrel of the nail. I want to be able to adjust this evenly from side to side. I could always use my hand file to rest onto the surface to get it as even as I can from side to side. All right, and then you can see once this is done, right, like the nail is going to be built out into great form and shape. Right, and that's what we want to be able to create. So this was just a regular nail that we converted into something that looked like this. All right, you guys have any questions, feel free to leave your comments below. You guys can always, again, get a hold of us here at home office. Remember, subscribe and like. Look forward to the next session of nail school with you guys. Thank you guys for joining in. And again, I'm really looking forward to helping you guys get to that nail ninja status. I really appreciate you. You guys have a wonderful day. Peace.